that army could ever be induced to come out and fight. Mr. Davis was ready to agree. He reviewed the army, was impressed by what he saw, and impressed those who saw him. His old friend Leonidas Polk, the Episcopal bishop, who was now a lieutenant general commanding an army corps, wrote to Mrs. Polk with innocent enthusiasm. "We have had a royal visit from a royal visitor. The President himself has been with us." The review was a great affair, and the bishop said Mr. Davis told him that the soldiers who passed in review were the best appearing troops he had seen, well appointed and well clad. Bishop Polk had the President's trust and affection. He was a West Point graduate, of a long-gone vintage, to be sure, and he was a devout patriot. And on both sides in this war, men were commissioned general for less impressive reasons. He could still wear episcopal vestments over his uniform. In this month of December, he officiated at a wedding, marrying General John Hunt Morgan, the famous Kentucky cavalryman, to pretty Mattie Ready of Murfreesboro, with Bragg and his staff and other generals looking on. And this was a storybook affair, with a storybook romance back of it. A few months earlier, Mattie Ready was living in federally occupied territory. She didn't then know Morgan, but she defended him with much spirit when she heard federal officers deride him, and one of them demanded her name. He would write it down and see that she was listed as a confirmed rebel. She gave it to him and added defiantly, "But by the grace of God, I hope one day to call myself the wife of John Morgan." After the Federals were gone, Morgan heard the story, laughed, then rode around to see her, liked what he saw, courted her, and now made her his wife. So went the story. A day or so after the wedding, Morgan and his squadrons went riding hard to the northward to go raiding far behind the Federal front and spread alarm along the wild Kentucky border. The ceremony at Army headquarters went into the Confederate legend, along with the bride and bridegroom, and the memory of candlelight glinting off the brass buttons and sword hilts. The good bishop assured his wife that the wedding had been a historic occasion. So the legend was flourishing, and the fine review at Murfreesboro would fit into it. But meanwhile, the Confederate cause itself was displaying ominous symptoms, and that was why the President had come to Tennessee. He wasn't really worried about what this army at Murfreesboro might do, and he didn't need to see the troops march past in order to know that they would give a good account of themselves when it was time to fight. But he had come to the Mississippi Valley just when the Federal Army of the Potomac was making another Forward to Richmond campaign. And at such a moment, Jefferson Davis did not leave the Confederate capital for any small reason. What had wrenched him away from Richmond was his recognition of the fact that no matter what happened in Virginia, the Confederacy was very probably doomed unless it could reverse the tide that was beginning to flow in the West. The problem in the East could be left to Robert E. Lee. That in the West demanded immediate presidential attention. The danger could be stated in simple terms. 30,000 veteran federal soldiers, led by the aggressive Major General Ulysses S. Grant, were marching out of western Tennessee down the line of the Mississippi Central Railroad, heading for Vicksburg. Vicksburg, a one-time cotton shipping port that sprawled up the slope of a chain of hills overlooking the hairpin bend in the Mississippi, roughly halfway between Memphis and New Orleans, had been given river batteries of moderate strength, and it was occupied by an inadequate garrison. It was one of the places which the Confederate nation had to possess, if it were to win its independence. As long as they held Vicksburg, the Confederates owned a 150-mile stretch of the Great River, the segment running south from Vicksburg to Port Hudson in Louisiana, where there were also fortifications and a garrison. And as long as this much of the river was held, the Southern Confederacy was still a valid whole, an unbroken nation stretching from Virginia tidewater to the Rio Grande, the authentic Cotton Kingdom as planned by the Founding Fathers. But if this bit of the river were lost, as it would be if Vicksburg fell, for Port Hudson could not stand alone, then the Confederacy would begin to die, its western states broken off forever, all of the Mississippi Valley held by the government at Washington.